Hello, everybody. Welcome to class. This is SDEV 153, website development. We'll be learning about building static websites, coding in HTML5, which has some advantages. In the long run, those who are going into software development careers will actually write programs that write this programming language we're going to look at this semester, really an encoding scheme for our data. And several languages go together. We'll look at a couple of them, and it does include a standard. So other areas of software development have kind of picked up on that standard because there's a lot of places that could really use a standard, so they just grab the HTML5 standard, like such as CSS. That's going to show up all over the place, and that's going to be our main focus this semester. HTML will come together pretty quickly. It usually does for most people. The cascading style sheets, CSS, the way we put together our colors and layouts and things like that. That one, there's a lot more we can do with. So most of the semester we'll be looking at that. So we'll be looking at our first example before the end of the day, but I wanted to get started with some general course policies, go over the syllabus, at least hit up a few key points. It was taken, my laptop did not want to sign into the Wi-Fi for some reason, so I was hoping to have this ready before we started, but I'll log on and pull up the syllabus here very shortly. I assume everybody was able to find the course shell okay during Ivy Learn. I know I was, it should have opened a couple days ago. I saw some people already turned in some assignments, but I assume since everybody was able to make it today, then you obviously found the site with no trouble. All right, there we go. Now I'm on the Wi-Fi. I was hoping to have that done before 1 o'clock, but the computer did not want to cooperate. So I'll get the syllabus pulled up. So to start with, I see a lot of familiar names on the roster. For those who haven't had me before, Chris Francis. I do go by Chris. Don't worry about any formalities with me. I go by my first name, or sometimes I go by my last name because there's usually several Chris's around, and my last name happens to be a first name as well. So I'm just used to going by both of them. But you should have a lot of fun in this class. Usually people enjoy this one, putting together websites. It's a big part of our modern world, so important knowledge. And I like to point out where this stuff will apply elsewhere in software development and where we'll use it. So we're going to look mostly at what's called hypertext markup language. But that's not the only markup language there is. So I like to use this class to kind of introduce markup languages in general, and that's just the one we practice with. And a few other points we'll see throughout the semester. Hopefully going to be a lot of fun, but let's get started here with a couple of course policies. And I just now got the website, so I can click the link and join the Zoom call. Hopefully it's not going to try to log me in. There we go. I found it can be a bit problematic when I have several computers now. I tried to do Zoom on several of them at once. There we go. Okay, now I can screen share. For those who have been in the classroom before, the instructor computers are way over here in the corner. I like to use my laptops. That way I can be at least like in the middle of the room, over by the blackboard and all that good stuff. I don't need video. Okay, so that took a couple minutes longer than I thought. But for some reason, the Wi-Fi wasn't connected. But on there now, so if I go ahead and share my screen, we'll just get started with a quick pass of the course policies. They're all laid out in the syllabus, and I assume everybody can read. So we'll just hit a couple key points along the way. Oh, on the homepage, what I just navigated away from, I've gone back and forth a few times on what to put on the homepage for the Ivy Learn shells. And what I settled on was just kind of a to-do list and general notes and things. So you'll see that page will update quite often. And I guess start with the general format for our class. As mentioned there, it's a blended class, which I'm going to treat it as more of the format that's labeled as Learn Anywhere, which means I will be here in the classroom. So you can join me. I'm not alone here in the classroom, so people in the classroom, the Zoom call, whatever's most convenient for you. I know after the last year and a half, pretty much, I was very much ready to be around other people again. So I was glad for the chance to be in the classroom, but I will be here broadcasting the Zoom call. So if you live far away, need to save some gas money, or it's just more convenient, we do the Zoom call. And for weather-related issues, don't expect class to be canceled, because we'll just do the Zoom call from, I'll do the Zoom call from my house. So if bad weather shows up, I guess they're forecasting it for tomorrow, but it's winter time. There's a good chance it'll show up on a Monday or Wednesday on us. The coming to campus is the only part that we can't cancel. We will still have a class, and I'll just broadcast the Zoom call from my house. You may have noticed when the little narrator on Zoom made the announcement, the meeting is being recorded. I will record all the meetings. I also try to make it a point to speak slowly and clearly in any recordings. That way you can watch it at increased speed. That happens. I also drink a Mountain Dew right before every lecture, so that certainly affects the ability to speak slowly and clearly sometimes. But I do try to make a point of that. That way you can speed it up a little if you need to. One quick question before we get started. I know I see a few names that I recognize that I've seen before. Is this anybody's first semester here? Bradley's first semester. Anybody on the Zoom call, is this your first semester? I'm guessing the silence means no. Okay, so if you have any general questions, we can address those too. Sometimes just college, being new to college in general, can be somewhat confusing. So anytime you have a question, feel free to send it my way. I have some office hours listed here. That's why I wanted to point out the question thing. They're scattered around, but you do not have to wait till the class time or one of my office hours to ask me a question. You don't even have to wait for reasonable hours. I wake up early in the morning. I'm usually up at 5 in the morning. Don't sleep very consistently anyway, so anytime Ivy Learn messages and text messages make noise on my phone. Those are the two things that make noise on my phone. That way it doesn't go off every 30 seconds from all the different email accounts and everything else in our modern world. But the message feature on Ivy Learn, the little inbox over here on the left, that's a regular email thing. That one will make noise on my phone as well as text messages. I'll go ahead and click on this since I mentioned it. Might as well point it out because there was at least one hand go up for new to Ivy Tech. So it's basically just an email feature restricted to the class. So the little pencil button over here is compose a new one. And then you'll just use drop-down options to choose which course, and you'll go on the right-hand side, you can choose anybody in the course or choose me, and just use drop-down menus to restrict who the email goes to. That's the official communication. There's a note in the syllabus that while there's lots and lots of ways to get a hold of me, please repeat anything through the official communication channel for record keeping purposes, since there is an official channel. But that's there. Here's my cell number. Ivy Learn messages and text messages make noise on my phone. Here's my office number. My office is straight across from our classroom in Ogle Hall 160. Used to be Skip's office. Skip retired, for those who weren't aware of that. Last Friday was his last day as the dean of 2 different schools and all the teaching and meetings. I guess really he just retired from the meetings because he's still teaching. He's still going to be in the learning commons for tutoring to help people out if they need it. He'll still be around quite a bit, but I moved into his old office now, so straight across the hall from our classroom. And I'll be there. Oh, I need to update this. This changed yesterday. Monday and Wednesday, it's before our class, not after. So it's 11:30 to 12:30. I'll probably be there before 11:30 in the morning, but I will get that updated shortly. And 11:30 to 1:30 Tuesday and Thursday. A few other gaps where I will be near the office, but you don't have to wait specifically for one of those times to ask me a question. Anytime you have a question, send it my way. Other thing, you'll notice I also have weekend office hours. That's when everybody does their homework, right? Most people are doing their homework on Sunday afternoon or maybe Sunday afternoon getting ready to do their homework before school delivered midnight in most of the classes. So I do set an hour for office hours on Sunday that's virtually. It'll be on a Zoom call. Those I had in previous semesters, it was always on the Ivy Learn chat room. I think I'm just going to do a Zoom call this semester. I may still open up the chat room for people that are used to that from the former semesters. Usually all that ended up in the chat room was comments like, hey, can we jump on the Zoom call real quick? So I'll just go ahead and do a Zoom call for those Sunday ones. It seems to be a better time for when people actually have questions. Some general information you can read. Lloyd Fairweather is the department chair. She's listed there as a supervisor. Her office is right next to mine on campus here. If there's Ivy Learn problems, there's information for them. Disability support. For some people, if you're new around the college, especially coming from a high school, in high schools, the disability accommodations are always handled for you. But once you hit the age of 18, that's considered private information. So it is not handled unless you talk to them explicitly. Some really great people in that office. So all you have to do is just go in there and tell them, say hi and tell them you need accommodations, and they will get the ball rolling really quick, get everything in order for you. But if you're coming from a high school where all of that was handled for you and you never had to worry about it, you do have to go contact the disabilities office to get that started. This is kind of new. It was formerly the library. Everything's digital anymore, right? We don't need that space full of just books that nobody's going to check out because they're going to look at the digital copy of them. There's still some books in there, but it's remodeled, renamed. So we're calling it the Learning Commons now. It's a big open space, some really comfortable furniture, nice spots to work, big windows looking at the interstate and over Sellersburg. Comfortable spot to work. The tutors are in there, all the way at the front for those who are familiar with the library here at Sellersburg Ivy Tech. In the front, it kind of looks like a greenhouse, great big windows. So a nice place to study. Free coffee in there. Free coffee is always nice when you're on campus and studying hard for long hours or something. It's a little Keurig that's kept stocked up. So at the very least, go check out the place for a cup of free coffee. Ivy Life, that's clubs and things. We'll talk about clubs in more detail coming up soon. Y'all can read a lot of that. I would like to pause here. Ivy Cares. This is a very useful thing. Actually, you can see there's a bunch of links there. There's several useful things there. Sometimes we all need a little bit of help. There's different ones there. But this one in particular, I like. This link, it's the third one down here, ivassist.auntbertha.com. From time to time, everybody needs a little help. And one of the most difficult aspects of dealing with that is figuring out where the help is. Or in our modern world, filling out all the paperwork to get that help. All the digging around, figuring out where you got to go to get an application, who that application has to be turned into. So this isn't the direct link, but what somebody did is they put together a database of the applications for help. So kind of a starting point. I live in Clarksville, so I'll put in the zip code for Clarksville. You'll just click that link, the third one in that section, ivassist.auntbertha.com. And it's a consolidated database to go see what help programs are out there and links to all of the applications directly. So still have to look for the applications and fill them out, but there's one spot to go look for them. You don't have to just randomly search stuff. So what's a good one? Don't pay for gas. So I just put in Clarksville zip code. So this is just the ones close to Clarksville. Gas is up over $3. I think I paid $3.09 this morning or something. So if anybody's a restaurant worker or a former restaurant worker, if you didn't know, you get free gas right now. The government's still paying for that. Healthcare, transportation. There's still some emergency financial aid from all of those programs that started about 2 years ago. Quite a bit was put aside to stretch out for a while because a few people with a little bit of foresight realized that people would probably still need money longer than the government was going to be sending out the checks for. And then obviously veterans grant programs and things like that qualify. But it's a place to look for the applications or along with gas, food. Lots and lots of food pantries around. There's a food pantry here at Ivy Tech as well. That's kind of nice, but that's top one on the list. So yeah, there's food pantry there. And so as America, there's no shortage of food pantries. But you can look through that. It's a useful thing because everybody needs some help from time to time, and they consolidated it so you don't have to spend a long time searching to figure out if there's help there. It's a one place to go look for help. And there's some other ones on here. There's a counselor here, therapist here at Ivy Tech, that if you're feeling overwhelmed and need somebody to talk to, one of those links goes to her. The Ivy Cares link gives you a way to talk to her. Okay, so some stuff about our course, the required text. So we'll need the textbook for the course. Pretty much the assignments that we're going to do every week are out of the chapter in the textbook. There's a low cost option available, but you can get to it right from Ivy Learn. So over here on the Ivy Plus bookshelf, if you click that link, and wait for slow internet to do something. Hopefully it won't take too long. There it goes. You should see the book on there. Can I get some confirmation? Do you all see the book? If you go to that Ivy Plus link. Anybody check yet?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. I was just making sure because sometimes I see things that students end up not seeing, and it takes a minute to figure it out between the two different views. Yeah, so you just click that, and that goes to an e-copy of the book, or there's, which is in that free textbooks thing happening this year. Or there's a loose leaf version. I have the previous two editions of the book. This is the third time I've taught this course, and I have two older editions of the book. The only thing that's changed is the chapter that has Flexbox and Grid. So if you find a really cheap copy on Amazon or something, you want to pick up that, so it's not the loose leaf version. That's the one where you just get a stack of papers and have to put it in a binder yourself. But oftentimes, still cost as much as textbooks. But all I've seen about it directly is here the thing I copied and pasted from the statewide course shelf that said low cost print options. So I don't know how low that cost is, but the e version is free. And the only thing that changed between the 8th and 9th edition was a couple typos. And the only change between the 9th and 10th edition was in, they added the chapter about Flexbox and Grid. So if you find an older version for cheap and want to use that, you should be okay most of the way through the course. And just that one chapter, we'll find a way to get you those. Or you can check the Ivy Learn thing for that one chapter. Some information about this, then y'all can read. So I'm just hitting up some key points. This one right here, I always like to point out, those who've had me in class before have seen me mention this a few times. It's not just this class, this is something you will see in every single one of your class. The major course learning objectives. It's a list of the things we're supposed to learn in each one of our courses. And right now, it's a big long list. We could read over it now. You can kind of look over it as preview. But the reason I like to pause here and mention this is at the end of the semester, you want to come back and look at this list. Is this the things you're supposed to learn for the course? So if the course, and it'll probably happen in all of your classes. So if that class is a prerequisite for another one, when you get into that other one, they're going to expect you to know the things on that list. So at the end of the semester, in all of your courses, as you can hear the end, you want to check that list and make sure you feel that you learn everything on that list that you're supposed to learn. And if not, those are definitely questions you want to ask when we get here. And I will remind you about that near the end of the semester. Some other stuff, general college policies, those are straightforward. You can click the link and check those out. Well, everybody seemed to make it here. I got an email from somebody that wasn't going to be able to make it today, so I assume everybody was able to find the syllabus and stuff, saw the instructional method. I plan to be here every time here on campus, just broadcasting a Zoom call. So it's your choice whether you join me up here or hop on the Zoom call. If things happen, I understand that. All of the sessions are being recorded and will be posted. You'll get links to the places they're posted. They'll be stored in more than one spot. Everything should be ready to go, excluding typos and things like that. Those always kind of creep in. But I'll be here every Monday and Wednesday, 1 o'clock. And this course is set up as lecture lab. So we'll talk about HTML and CSS a little. I like to use this class to introduce other markup languages, because those aren't the markup languages we use. And see where this knowledge applies in the broader spectrum of across computers. Yeah, including one very important one that I'm going to work in this semester called SSML. Can't remember what one of the S's stands for, but that's what the speech things use in order to use different emphasis or change the voice tone. Applications like Polly, that's the voice for Alexa. That uses a markup language, the same category of thing that we will be studying here in terms of a website, but that is still fairly new, so it hasn't made it into the education system, but something you will definitely see, so I want to make sure and include it when we're talking about markup languages. And if there's bad weather, Plan on just a Zoom call. I'll just broadcast the Zoom call from my house. I have a very big chalkboard at home in my home gym. I have I got a big sanded piece of plywood and use that chalkboard paint. So in my home gym, I have an 8 foot by 4 foot chalkboard, which I did my own math on before having everything went virtual and all that, but it came in really, really handy for that. I know a few people in the class have seen my chalkboard before. It gives me a place to just do the same lecture I would do here in the classroom. So in the event of bad weather, only the coming campus will change. Grades, I think I just left the default statement in there. I did start with the statewide course shell for consistency with all the other versions of this course running at all the IDX plus the state. I do customize it a little, change it up a little bit, but it's still mostly the statewide shell. For those who haven't had me before, you want to keep up on due dates and deadlines. I feel very, very strongly that everything due at 11:59 on the Sunday night is not good practice for the real world. That is not how the real world works. I'm sure every time you've got here, everybody's aware of that. So the due dates are kind of, they're not all at the same time, and you'll want to keep up on them. I like to enforce that. They're fairly consistent, and the late policies are also different depending on the type of assignment. They're all laid out here. Basically, everything's going to be due right before the next module starts. The semester started on a Wednesday, ends on a Tuesday. So Wednesday, Tuesday is really nice. One thing that I've always done, even when it was ending on a Saturday, Monday to Friday thing, so every week ended on a Sunday, I would always push dates back so there was a chance to ask questions. Because a lot of us, it's hard to find time to work on homework and stuff until the weekend. And then if it's due Sunday night, there's no chance to ask questions. So I just like to make sure that there's a chance to ask questions. And this Wednesday to Tuesday schedule works perfect for that, because everything's going to be due. Well, each module will be the Wednesday through the weekend, then that following Monday, and then the subsequent module will start on a Wednesday. So we'll always have that Monday to ask questions and deal with that before things are due. Like for you all to have a chance to ask any questions you might have before the due date instead of afterwards. So I remember that happening to me in a class and being so frustrated. Trying to ask a question and the professor said, well, you can ask in class. And it's like, well, the assignment's due at the beginning of class. So can't really, can't ask the question until after it's due and that. So I always have a policy like that. But things will be due right before the next module starts. This is a 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock class. We aren't going to run to 5 o'clock every day. It's probably going to be like, longest will be about 2 hours of lecture. And then the rest of that will be lab time when I am sitting by a Zoom call ready to answer questions immediately. We'll talk about that before long. But each module starts on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So the previous module's work is due at 12:59 p.m., 1 minute before our class starts. So module 1 homework will be due at 12:59 p.m., the middle of the afternoon or early afternoon next Wednesday. Things labeled as assignments, you can turn in late all the way to the end of the semester. There is a 3% point deduction every day that is like down to 40% or 50%. I think I stopped at 40%. I've been doing 40%, but somewhere around that, it's still 40 or 50%. That's still a failing grade, but it's a failing grade you can recover from, as opposed to a 0. If you never send me anything, that gets a 0. But things labeled assignments, you can turn in late for that deduction. Set up assignments, you cannot turn in late. So this first week, we have to set up a place to host our websites. And there's some options about that. We'll talk about those soon. And you have to set up some sort of software to write your HTML and CSS code. We'll see that after we go over these policies. And there's points on those. Not a lot of points, but there's points on there, which obviously those are necessary. That software is necessary for the class, so you're gonna have to set that up. But you can't get the points if you don't get it set up by the due date for module 1. So no late submissions on setup stuff. Discussion boards also, discussion boards, no late submissions on those. They kind of drift away from it, and oftentimes it depends on who wrote the course shell and stuff. But the point of those things is to simulate the conversations you would have with your classmates in a traditional setting, like moving from the classroom to the parking lot after a lecture. The things you're going to talk about to that group of people walking down that same hall at the same time. That is important in education. So discussion boards were originally meant to take the place of that. I don't know. They may not necessarily do be a great replicate of it, but just like a conversation, right? If you miss the conversation, you miss the conversation. If you show up an hour late to a party and all your friends are like, oh, we just had the greatest conversation, that means you missed it, right? And I treat the discussion boards that same way. So no, wait, you can't join the discussion if everybody else has moved on to a different topic. Quizzes have that same 3% late thing. It's on the same due date. 3% late for every day that it is, 3% off for every day that it is late. And quizzes, you only have 1 extra week. Which for this class is the same module. I know a couple of y'all are in the Thursday night class, the Python class, and that's going to affect things. That'll be different there because then we have 2 weeks per module, and it's still you only have 1 extra week to turn in the quiz if it doesn't get turned in on time. Exams, there will be exactly 1 week to do them. 1 calendar week, 7 days, and exactly. So they might not open at midnight. They might not close 11:59 like what you're used to. Because I feel very strongly that everything on the same schedule is not good preparation for the real world. Things change, and it's not going to come as a surprise. I will start reminding you about it about a week and a half before the exam. Send out several reminders and then beforehand and several reminders during the exam. But pay close attention to the due dates. That's the policy. I'm a pretty laid back person. I understand things happen. Also, I would much rather see correct than quick. Right? If you have to rush through just to hit the deadline, I would prefer you to take a little bit extra time and do it correctly, because we're here to learn this. This class is about websites. Right? That's a big, important part of our world. So we want to make sure we're learning it thoroughly and properly. So I'm pretty laid back. The thing I ask about that is, if things happen, please try to get a hold of me before the due date, not afterwards. But at the same time, if you're worst case scenario, right, you're sitting in a hospital emergency room or waiting room, you can contact me afterwards. Right? I'm pretty laid back. But there is a policy, so let's try to stick to the policy. Just let me know beforehand. Non-attendance days, if I don't hear from a student by a certain date, I will turn their name into the register. We just kind of assume that, like, maybe you registered for the wrong class or something, or and it didn't get dropped properly. Never hear from you by like the second class or anything, but everybody that's here today is, well, I've heard from you, so you're not, that doesn't apply to you. Actually, I think I've heard from everybody on the roster now, so that doesn't really apply to anybody in this class. Then 2 dates, there's drops and withdrawal, 2 words that we need to pay attention to the dates to. Does anybody know the difference between the 2? Have you heard that anywhere in your classes or anything? Yeah, so this might be important for one to remember, check out correctly. A drop is like you never took the class to begin with. So that's, you only have a couple days to do that. What is it? January 16th. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be the 26th. That's got to be a typo because that date's already passed. And you do have a couple days to drop the thing. So drop is like when you sign up for your own class, right? The names get changed or something in the restructuring, and you sign up for something and be like, oh, wait, I already took this class. I don't need to take it. So you have a couple days to drop, and it doesn't show up on your transcript or anything. It's like you never took the class. A withdrawal is when something happens and you're just not going to be able to finish it. You want to turn in paperwork and just kind of withdraw from the class. It does show up on your transcript as a W. I think gets replaced whenever you do come back and pass the class. But that's a good idea when it doesn't, when things just aren't working out, because life happens sometimes, right? It'll throw us some big curveballs. I have no idea what might happen. Hopefully that won't apply though. Hopefully everybody's gonna finish okay. And I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the 26th. Would that be next Tuesday? Next Wednesday? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this date is supposed to be the 26th. I will double check and correct that, because there's no way it's 16th. Must be a typo. But with both of them, drops and withdrawals, up until that date, which I'm going to go ahead and assume I was supposed to type the 26th there and just made a typo. Up until the 26th, you get 100% of your money back. And then between January 26th and this last day to withdraw, March 1st, the amount of a refund you get drops every week. And then on March 1st is the first day that you won't get any refund back. Or maybe it's the last day that you get anything, but at that point it's probably like $1 or $2, which is fairly insignificant when talking about college tuition. So withdrawing, the amount of refund you get slowly goes down between those dates. But hopefully that won't be an issue. Everybody will finish out okay. Online etiquette, y'all know how to be nice to each other. It's often high school students and courses. I tend to not pay any attention to that. Billy sent me the list and I saw a table, so I didn't look at the names. I was just like, okay, thanks. Because my policy is if you're in a college course and you're ready to be treated as an adult, I expect everybody to behave as an adult, act as an adult. Right? It's even though the birth certificate says a different year that's not all the way to 18 yet, if you're in a college course, you're jump starting what that paperwork says. So I'll treat everybody as adults and expect everybody to act as adults, any high school students, because yeah, it's a college course. So I try to not even look at the names of the high school students in my class. This one, the contracts around here say that we'll respond to an email within 36 hours. So if you don't hear from me in 12 hours, something bad probably happened. I'm usually really, really quick to respond. I wake up early in the morning, so I usually try to wait till 7 or 8 o'clock. Times that other people start to wake up before replying, but I'm usually really, really quick to reply. So if you don't hear from me in like 12 hours, something bad might happen. We talked about the official communication channel. There's the official chat thing, the inbox there on How You Learn, but any way you can find to get a hold of me works. There's lots of ways to communicate with me. Some other stuff y'all can read through this. Oh, looks like I copied and pasted a couple things twice. So here's the breakdown of the course. There's discussion boards. Should be fairly easy. I used to delete discussion boards because one of my degrees, well, actually, one of the degrees I got from Ivy Tech some years back was pretty much entirely online. My first semester it ran here at the Sellersburg campus. And my very last semester, they brought it back to the Sellersburg campus. So I was able to take that, the IVYP, the 1 credit hour, welcome to campus, and the 1 credit hour, see class at the end on campus, and everything else I had to take online. So I developed a strong dislike of discussion boards, but it's kind of standard. So it's basically easy points. Just make sure you get it in on time. There's no late submission of discussion boards. Every chapter includes a case study to practice that. This is an active subject we learn by doing. So you'll want to get lots of practice at it. And there's the stuff at the end of the chapter. I will tend to work through examples in class, and that's what the participation grade down, you can see at the bottom of the screen there. 5%, so it's not much. My thought there is it's a way to reward the people that do show up, follow along class examples and stuff without punishing the ones that choose not to. The important thing is that you learn the subject. So if you learn the material, you learn the material. But I will be, through most of the lectures, I will pretty much be leading you through examples, and if you follow along those examples, send me those files for practice work. And it doesn't have to be an exact copy of what I do. Because on my way through courses, what I always did was I would try to do something similar to what the instructor would do. That way it was just different enough that I felt confident I was gaining the concepts, but try not to get so different that I couldn't ask questions if I got stuck. So I would do something similar. It doesn't have to be an exact copy. Just want to get practice. So for those participating points, just let me see that you're getting lots of practice. It's an active subject. We learn by doing. We'll come back to the essay things here in a second. The big one's the final project. Oh yeah, there's quizzes. They're from the test bank that came with the book. I didn't write the quiz, and I found that when I don't write quizzes, I tend to disagree with the answers quite a bit. Sometimes when I found that when I write the quiz, I'll find myself disagreeing with the answers because grading them on a different day than I wrote them on. But usually, if I didn't write that quiz, there would be some questions that I don't necessarily agree with, and we'll put the points back on. So if I can, basically, if I feel like I can see how you got that answer, maybe misread the question or something a little, I will put the points back on. And for those who had me in the SDEV 140 class in the fall, there's none of those true false questions like that. I don't know who wrote that quiz. I should have looked a whole lot more carefully before I went with it. But it was in a statewide course shell. And those true false questions were awful. They should not have been true false questions. That memory is going to stick with me for a minute about those quizzes. For those who haven't wondering what I'm just talking about, so for a true false question, a good example is it asks about transistors. I can't remember the exact word, and it said this was a big change in the early 1960s. I think is what the question said. And it was true false. And apparently, whoever wrote that decided that statement was false because that happened in the mid 1960s, not the early 1960s. It was like 63 or 64. It's like that's there's lots of ways you can split up things with early, mid, but there's true false questions like that. There's none of those. These are the ones that came from with the textbook. So like the author provided actually an XML sheet. After we've taken a couple quizzes, I'll pull up some from the question bank because they're written in a markup language. One of the things we're going to study. And Canvas and Blackboard use them. So if Canvas and Blackboard use them, every other learnings that LMS, because yes, there are others that exist out there, every other LMS is pretty much obligated to do what the two big ones do, which is use XML, extensible markup language for question banks. So it's the same family of languages we're studying here. I like to look at that family point distribution. So 2 essay assignments. I'll click on them over here. And the internet's taking forever, so I should probably just plug up that MacBook. So the battery doesn't run down on me. I always like to point this out in class. When you're at Walmart and places, remember to check the clearance rack. Well, it's a little more scuffed up. You probably can't see it on the screen there, but a little bitty scuff here, about the size of my finger, was $300 off a brand new MacBook. So remember to check clearance racks. I didn't really have it in my budget at the time, but I certainly didn't want to pass up $300 off a MacBook. It's like, oh, not going to find that again. Okay, so here's the assignments. Scroll down here. The essays. So there's 2 of them. I'll start with this one. Because those who have me in more than one class, this is one I tend to put in almost every class. I skipped a few classes recently because it has to be in, because people would see it over and over and over again. But the story behind this is a few years ago, the VP for School of IT at Ivy Tech, all the way across Indiana, she was down this way doing a tour, and there's when her tour brought it for our campus, she went ahead and met with a lot of local business people around here. And something they told her, it was basically people with 4-year degrees, or even some 6-year degrees, they continued on to master's degrees in computer science. They've been having to turn them down for jobs because their knowledge was 6 years old by the time they got through a 4-year degree. And that's pretty old for technology. So for one, I try to keep up to date. That's why we're going to be looking at SSML as one of the, at least once, probably around week 5 or 6, as we get near the end, and I've covered the core concepts. Because that's something that is definitely coming, but it hasn't worked its way into the education system yet. So I better keep up on it. But when she was telling this story, it's like, okay, those people aren't getting hired because 4-year degree leaves their knowledge 6 years behind that technology because they plan it all out that far in advance at many of the traditional universities. I thought, well, that's an easy thing to deal with. So you all have a short report to write on new technologies, which is important no matter what field you're going, right? Not just IT, but business people and medical professionals and accountants, whatever field you're in, you need to stay up to date on the field. So it's just sort of practice at that, making sure that your knowledge isn't 6 years old. There's no shortage of new technology. And it should be very interesting, right? A lot of interesting things happen. Try to find something in the last 6 months and pick 3 of them from the last 6 months and write about a paragraph or so in each one. 1 to 2 pages. Doesn't have to be extensive, but see what you can find interesting. So hopefully that one won't be too bad. And then these essays are just due by the end of the semester. So these essays, it's the due date on them is the final deadline for the semester. So you have a little bit of time to get those in. And for those that have been in more than one class, I did put the new technology report in 3 of the 4 classes this semester. So if you see it in more than one class, let's just choose a couple more or expand on something if you find something really, really interesting that doesn't really fit in a paragraph anyway. Just put that up into a paragraph in each one. But the point of it is to keep up to date on the field, and there's lots of advancements in this field, so you want to make sure you can keep up to date on it. Interesting things to write there. The other essay is going to follow along with what we're studying here, making things look like a web page. So it's a 1-page essay, add some references, all that normal stuff. MLA formatting, but the thing is, it needs to be a web page. It needs to be written in HTML and styled with CSS so that when it opens up in a browser, it looks like paper. I've seen some really nice ones come in, like people went ahead and went a step further and made things look like parchment or dug around and found blotted up pieces of paper for the backgrounds. Make it look like coffee stains on the paper. Make a web page that looks like an essay. And when you hit print, it goes to a printer and comes out on paper with MLA formatting. Won't be hard. I'm not trying to trick you with it or anything. So if you have questions with it, let me know. I know in the past that's often been initially met with a sigh, but then once people get into the project, they usually really enjoy it and have fun with it. It's instead of just typing up the essay in Microsoft Word, you're going to put the words there, add in some HTML tags so that it fits the standard for websites, and then use CSS cascading style sheets to style it up and make it look really, really nice. Make it look like a piece of paper. And I often do that in the software development courses because I assume in our modern world that most people know how to use the buttons, the formatting buttons on Microsoft Word. And if you're in a software development class, then you kind of need to learn how to make those buttons. So the essay's history of internet or something. What I put on there? Yeah, history of the internet. Just a one-page quick history. I'm more concerned with using the HTML and the CSS. Really, so the thing I just said. I assume most people in our society know how to use those buttons to format things in Microsoft Word or Google Docs or LibreOffice or whichever one you use. But if you're in this class, you're kind of in the pathway to learn to make those buttons. So you need to think about it that way. And usually people have a lot of fun with that assignment when it comes up. Hopefully it won't be too bad. And it's not a trick assignment. If you get stuck somewhere, just let me know. So that was some key points from the syllabus. I was thinking about 110, 150, 210 or 215 for the first break, where we can start talking about the hosting. That's the first thing. We'll be making web pages shortly, but we need a place to store those web pages, to present them to the rest of the world across the internet. Because that's what you're going to submit. You're going to write up some files to display text on a web page, really a website. The first couple ones are going to be pages, and then there'll be pages linked together. That's an important thing. We'll talk about that in detail soon. But we're going to make websites. So your submission, you're not going to send me those files. You're going to put those on the internet and send me the link to them. That's the core concept. That's what really took off. There's some older connection things there that we'll talk about briefly after a break here in about 15 minutes or so, that are always included. But what really took off is when somebody kind of came up with a different idea. Instead of sending all the data, why don't I just send you a short little address that tells you where the data is? And that's when the internet really took off and everything changed with that. We'll talk about that in detail after the break. Learning environment. So the preview, practice, repeat. Those three are important. And when we're doing, so you'll hear me say things repeatedly for that repetition aspect of hopefully committed it to your mind, committing it to memory. But it's an active subject, so we're mostly going to be doing practice. We're going to be writing code and learning about this stuff by doing. So we're going to need a place to host these websites we make. And you have an option. So the statewide course shell is going to AWS. But I asked the question a few minutes ago of whether this was anybody's first semester, right? And there was positive response on that. So one thing about AWS, when we go to Amazon Web Services, we get a blank server. We can do whatever we want with it. I mean, it's just a blank server we can use any way we want to. But this class is a lot of people's first semester in an IT program. So I'm not particularly a fan of handing people server admin task to do on their first day. Server administration is actually a degree program. That's a separate degree program. So if you're getting a software development degree, you're going to just pick up the phone and call your server admin, not necessarily do it all yourself. You want to know somebody, you want to have a basic working knowledge of it. So, but I decided to go with traditional hosting as well. That's still very popular. AWS is growing, but the traditional hosting is a lot easier. There's some server admin out there, got everything set up. All we have to do is upload our files to his server, and then he'll tell us what the URL to them is, so we can send that to other people so they can check out our pages. And a whole lot easier. Everything's the server admin's all set up. Lots of different levels of that. And you've probably seen commercials for GoDaddy, the really high quality web hosting. Gator's a popular one. Blue Gator, thanks to the name. There's lots and lots of them out there, but the server admin work's all handled, and all we do is upload our files to put on the web. So I'm going to kind of tend towards that, but I did not delete the AWS stuff that came in the course shell. So I did leave that there. You should receive an email about the AWS stuff. So I'll look at that. There's an assignment here. So for the web hosting one, text editors, we'll look at that in a moment. I guess I need to go back to where I can see the labels and click on the right page. We'll talk about text editors after the break. That's where we write our code. Because computer code is written in just basic Unicode. We don't want to use anything fancy like Google Docs or Microsoft Word, or we don't use anything fancy at all. We want just very, very stripped down, simple text editors. The ones that you're new to this sort of thing, you may have used them as just for general to-do lists, but probably not, because they have too simplistic of functions. We'll talk about those after the break. So there's some AWS stuff that is up to you. I just basically just left it in there. Instead of deleting it, it's a walkthrough lab. So you can walk through the steps, look at the pictures in the lab manual, and do all that. Because AWS is huge. It's over 33% of the market. So AWS is over a third of the market. So it's definitely important to know it. But I'm just not a big fan of asking people to do server admin stuff their first day of an IT program. So we'll do the easier one in the class. But if you want to use AWS, you can. If you've used it in the past, it's a new setup now, and we can't request additional credits, which something that shouldn't have surprised anybody, but apparently it did, is that when the school gave people credits and they could request an unlimited amount more, not just our school, all schools across America, people took advantage of that and just ran their business on somebody else's dollar. So there's tight restrictions on the credits allowed. And when I looked at the number, it really seemed odd. Like, I don't think that would be enough to get all the way through the semester to keep your web server, if you keep your website available all the time, around the clock. Like, you'd have to turn your server on to upload stuff, and then turn your server on and let me know what time it's on to grade it. from the number, but it might be, maybe it'll stretch out, but, my experience with AWS bills is they add up pretty quickly. But it's there if you want to go walk through that lab, give it a look. Doesn't have to be today. I just left that option there for you. And if you normally use this domain host that I picked, the free domain host that I picked, and just do take a look at AWS in week 5 or something. You're like, oh, I'll go ahead and do this. That's fine with me. As long as the site is hosted somewhere and AWS is huge, so you're probably going to want to get basic familiarity with it. But it's a lot for day one. So we're going to go with the easier one, which is this site, infinityfree.net. There's lots and lots of free hosting sites. There's as many free hosting ones as there are paid for hosting ones. The thing I like about this one is they had a brilliant idea that I guess slipped past most other people, and that they show ads on the back end. So to like website developers, and we're seeing one right now. Where's the close button? There it is. Basically, you go to this site, infinityfree.net, and then click that green button for client area, and just set up an account. But they show ads on the back end, which covers cost on a lot of things. So there's some features that are normally paid for here. Most free hosting sites will let you have a database, 1 to 3 databases. You can have 400 databases, not tables, because you can build up one database to any size and really treat it like several databases if you needed to. But you can get up to 400 databases, separate databases on the free account. So they just claim unlimited. But extra little things like that would normally cost money. And all you have to do is look at ads. And anytime we jump on the internet, we're going to look at ads, right? So hopefully that should seem familiar. There's one place you have to agree to accept emails, but I've never got emails from them except the valid ones coming from the server admins. Like, site's about to shut down. Nobody's been there 90 days or something. So it seems to just be wasting space. But I've never got spam. I've never had the inbox just fill up with spam from them. So you set up an account. I wrote up a step-by-step manual 2 times ago when I taught the class, I think. Oh, that's neat. The ads are showing me gold today. No telling what targeted ads might look at. I bought a coin yesterday, or 2 days ago, bought a gold coin. I suppose now that's the only ads I'm going to see for a week or so. But once you get in there, you can have 3 accounts. You'll be able to do everything for our class on one, so the other 2 are just yours to do whatever you want with. Or you could organize the course stuff into 3 different ones. But you use your email, set up an account, and when you're ready, or when the general account for Infinity Free is set up, you'll hit the blue button for create account, and it'll just ask for some basic information. Step 1, pick a name. So you have to pick a name. Good names cost money, and that's true wherever you go, whether it's, and that's separate from hosting. So if you pay for really good hosting, you still buy the really good name to put in the address bar for somebody else, whether it's AWS or a free hosting site, or if anybody has a free hosting site they've used before and just want to use that one. As long as you host your pages somewhere, I'll be okay with it. So you just make up a name. I'm going to call this in class. We'll talk about this soon. Actually, it's a little ways away. I think it's in week 6. But there are certain names that are preferred. In some of your other programming classes, you might have seen underscores used a lot more. By the nature of websites, dashes are preferred. because people who aren't computer people are gonna look at that, and then they're gonna be a lot more comfortable with the dash than underscore. But the normal way of naming things, no spaces, you gotta be careful with spaces. Most of your servers are gonna be Linux machines, which means they are case sensitive, which pretty much always causes an issue in this class because most people are writing on a Windows machine. Most people have Windows. Some people on Macs will even go ahead and click the checkbox so that the Mac isn't case sensitive. Right? On Windows, it doesn't care whether we have a capital letter or lowercase letter. Linux machines will. They're case sensitive, so you will have to watch the uppercase and lowercase letters. We'll see that. But for the thing, you'll just pick a name, and for the free names, don't go buy anything, just use the free name. They just add easy.com. Not the best extension, or there's options on extensions if you like one of the other ones better. You pick one of those free extensions, no need to buy anything, and then hit the search button just to see if it's available. And if it is, if you leave the username and password blank, it will generate some for you. And I'm getting ready to show you where to find those. Click on the reCAPTCHA and hit create. So that easy to set up the account. It might take a couple hours. It does end up being human approved. A machine doesn't make the final approval, so you'll have to wait till the human clicks the checkbox, which doesn't take long. They say up to 72 hours, but I don't think I've ever waited more than 3. We'll check here. And then there's 2 separate sections. So there's control panel that has all of the tools that we would use. I'll go ahead and look at that. And when it's a brand new site, they might ask you, oh yeah, this message asking about this stuff. You have to agree to this. Send email, but the only emails I've ever got, and I've been using this hosting place since at least 2018. I think longer than that. There was something I did in 2018 that was definitely put on here. And I think I'd already used it before then. So I've been using it for years, and the only emails I've ever got are emails from those server admins. They don't send you a bunch of useless ads. Usually it's, if you don't have any visitors in 90 days, they're going to shut down the account. They're related to the Blue Gator. So if you want to upgrade to the paid account, you can get that. Right now, there's a button. I don't even see it on the control panel. It's great on, it's hidden on the control panel, but what we really need is just a place to upload our files. There's another shortcut to get to that. There's a lot of tools through there. So if you want different databases, MySQL, Postgre, different domain names, those are actually links to registers because good names cost money. It's a valuable asset to have something really nice to put in the URL. You can set up email servers, and that's one thing you usually have to pay for, to set up an email server or chat servers. But because they show ads to the developers on the back end, they have a few more tools than most of the free ones. Some other stuff, we mostly just need a place to upload files. It takes a couple hours, so I need to go back to the home page. I think this one goes back to the home page. Nope, that did not go to the page I was wanting to. So this one will probably go back to the home page. And I waited until this morning, so it was around 10 o'clock this morning that I started another account. Oh, I didn't go where I was wanting to go either. or you want the button that says client area. That's where you can get back to all your different accounts. I was just kind of starting out showing you the buttons there. So I set up one this morning, which is active. So you can see there's two different ones. I think this is the one I did this morning. So I'll click this account. And there's a control panel what we just looked at, or this thing, the file manager, where we'll upload our files. And down here is all the information. So like there's the generated password, username, all of that stuff. If you didn't set it yourself, you can get it from there. If you set up databases, like MySQL databases, password is definitely required. And it will be the account password, so just copy and paste it from there into whatever scripts access your database. You can see the URL down here, so we should be able to click on that. Domains and subdomains, so goes right over to this SDEV153.com or SDEV153.pc.com is the one I set up this morning. So yeah, I probably could have added something else in that. Sorry, I guess I picked the good name for our class. But something relative to the class, to know what it is, or just make up a name, and then that URL is what you will send me every time. And I haven't put anything on here, so there's nothing to show yet. Under File Manager, well, it may not be up and running yet. Oh yeah, this button I think turns orange whenever it's up and running. So I started this at like 9 o'clock this morning, and it looks like this one's not quite ready. So hopefully it'll be up here before the end of the day, before the end of our class period. I'll show you what to do. But if there's a delay, I'll make a video, but I can also push back the homework assignments until I've actually talked about it in class, gone over the steps. But basically all we do is, it takes us to a place where we have an upload button. I assume everybody's seen an upload button before, right? We make our files, upload it. And there's a text editor built right in there. So you don't even have to upload the files, you can edit them there. Because it uses Monsta, which is a very nice, that control panel we just looked at is called cPanel. And that's generally considered one of the better ones to have on hosting sites. And it uses Monsta FTP, which is very rarely free. But this site shows ads to the developers in the background to cover things like those extra nice little tools. But whenever this button turns orange, we'll be able to upload files and see that. But first, we need to make some files to upload. And it's been about an hour, so probably a good time to take a break. Huh? And then the AWS stuff. Should have received an email. Did anybody send the email yet for that? Okay, I see. And now during the class, thank you. Where you'll approve that, and yeah, I wasn't able to change the dates. Can't remember where all it showed up before, but some of y'all had me before in class may have seen that I tend to try to label AWS stuff as starting a week ahead of time and ending a week afterwards. But I wasn't able to change the dates on the new system. Somebody already told them when Ivy Tech semesters start. So if you put anything on that AWS account, make sure you download it, get it back off there before the end of the semester, because they know what day the semester ends, and they'll hit the power button on that server, I guess. We'll take a quick look at that after the break. Does anybody have any questions about those basic policies, the starting points there? You're ready for a break? 10 minutes sound good? Can you still hear me on the Zoom call?
Yeah, we can hear you. 10 minutes sounds good.
All right. So the clock on the wall here says 2:17. So we'll get back to it at 2:27. Go ahead and stop the recording and take a couple minutes. Find the button.